Welcome to Lawyers Without Billboards, where we break down family law and other areas of the law. No gimmicks, no legal jargon, just real, unfiltered talk from real lawyers. Join your hosts, Steve, Patty, Jimmy, and Alexa, partners at Shoemaker and Lewis, a law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Every episode, they tackle the legal questions that matter most: divorce, custody, child support, alimony, and everything in between. They'll pull back the curtain to give you real insights on what happens inside the courtroom and beyond.
Oh, welcome to Lawyers Without Billboards.
Welcome back.
Here we are.
Hey,
Steve, Patty, Jimmy, Alexa.
Hey, today we are going to talk about contempts. Contempt of court.
I don't know what that is, but I'd love to be held.
Contempt? Just held. So,
I just wanted to be held, that's all. Good. I didn't know him in jail.
It could.
well, okay. So what is a contempt action? Somebody help me out.
You didn't do what you were supposed to do. No, it's yes and no, but it's you didn't follow a court order.
Right.
Right. If Jimmy and I have a contract, I can't be held in contempt of violating the contract.
Yeah, I mean, Steve doesn't do what he's supposed to do
Most of the time. Yeah.
You know?
Thank you.
We hold him in contempt of wife.
Contempt of wife?
Yeah.
See, what happens is, and civil law and domestic law are a great example. You may reach a settlement or an agreement, or the court may say, this is my order, or you may present a settlement agreement to the court, and then the court takes your contract, right, Jimmy, and then ratifies it and says, well, now your agreement is my order.
Yep.
Now, if you don't follow it, you could be held in
Contempt of court, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about contempt. You know, Steve's made it very simple, but it's not so simple, right? What kind of contempts do we see all the time?
You mean like civil contempt, like violation of the order not paying child
Here's
support?
somebody doesn't pay their child support. They don't pay their alimony.
They didn't sell the house. They didn't pay the money they were supposed to pay for the house. Things like that.
They violated parenting time, like they didn't bring the child.
They withhold the kid, yeah.
Or things like
They didn't transfer the car title.
Yeah. So, and I'm taking this straight from the statute, and this is dealing with superior courts, OCGA 15-6-8. Superior courts, because that's most of where we practice. Mm-hmm. Superior courts have the authority to punish contempt by fines not exceeding $1,000, by imprisonment not exceeding 20 days, or both. So, let's talk about this. There's two types of contempt, right?
Civil and criminal.
What's the difference?
Criminal contempt you are doing to punish. So you are allowed to incarcerate someone for up to 20 days as a punishment. Civil contempt, you are trying to gain compliance by the individual. So, for example, if there's a money judgment or there's, child support and there's an arrearage owed, the person can be held in civil contempt, can be incarcerated, and can be held until X amount is paid. Mm-hmm. So it could be longer than 20 days, it could be shorter, but it's not for the purpose of punishment, it's for the purpose of compliance.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you guys have some examples?
Well, go ahead, Jimmy. You look like
Alexa has a phenomenal
really good example.
It's very current.
So if you don't pay the amount of money you're ordered to pay under a prior contempt and a prior contempt, you can be found in contempt again for not paying monies owed, right? So, for example, a case I had recently, the wife was supposed to pay a certain amount of money towards a house. She was on a payment plan. She did not make shit for payments. And so she had a balance owed of about $60,465.05. So when give or take, something like that. So in order to gain her compliance, I asked the court to throw her ass in jail until she paid a purge figure, so a number that the court would order. I didn't get to pick the number. Plus interest, because I could ask for interest. And the judge went with me based on an entire very lengthy process, long trial in front of a jury, that she would be held in civil contempt and would be thrown in jail until such time as she paid a large purge payment.
And how long has she spent in jail? Or did she spend in jail?
Oh, it was today. So today's October 1st. She has been there about a month and a half.
Weeks. Okay.
And has made zero payment.
Right. Now, there's civil contempts and criminal attempts, and Patty, y'all have done a good job explaining those. I also have some perspective on this.
You were held in contempt a few times?
No, but
Contempt of wife.
I actually judge
Oh yeah, Judge Miller.
Judge Miller down in the Spalding in Pike County held me in contempt personally because my cell phone went off in the courtroom.
How dare you?
I know, it was horrible. That's a funny story. But in any event, I classify contempts as well as bullshit contempts.
Sure.
Nebulous contempts and hard contempts. And I use these terms with my clients. And they're like, well, what's a hard contempt? A hard contempt is easy to prove. You were supposed to pay me $1,000 a month in child support, and you haven't paid it for the last 12 months. Hard contempt, because you either...
My example was a very hard contempt.
Yeah, yours was a hard contempt. Yeah,
Yes.
Money is usually black and white. It's very easy to prove.
Yeah.
Nebulous contempts are not impossible to prove, but they are more difficult. They are like, he didn't give me the right of first refusal. He brings the child home late.
Mm-hmm.
He disparages me and talks bad about me to my kid. Those are harder.
He communicates through the child.
Yeah, those are harder to prove, and they are problematic. And then there's bullshit contempt. And I think my favorite bullshit contempt of all time has to be Jim Holmes, who was on here on our podcast recently.
Mm-hmm.
Jim was the subject of a contempt by his ex-wife. This has been many, many years ago, because Margaret, his current wife, wrote the child support check and signed it, and then it was sent to his ex-wife, and she tried to hold Jim in contempt because the order said that Jim had to pay her. And by Margaret paying it instead of Jim, it wasn't. That's just a bullshit contempt, because the spirit of the order was followed, and that contempt went nowhere.
Of course.
So there are bullshit contempts, there are nebulous contempts that are harder to prove, and then there are hard contempts. And what I generally like to tell people is, okay, you bring me a basket full of nebulous contempts. I'd like to bring them together and couple them with a hard contempt or two. Or, your hard contempt, you didn't pay me child support for the last month. Okay, let's wait 2 or 3 more months.
Yeah.
Because let's build this up. Anybody can slip once or twice, but let's build this up into more. I had a woman call me just yesterday. I think I passed the case on to you, Jimmy. She's like, yeah, he hadn't paid me child support in 16 months. Okay, well, that's 10 grand.
Yeah. Right.
That's easy. Yeah. We're ready to go. So that's how I look at them. Now, civil and criminal is true, but I also, when I'm talking to clients or potential clients, I like to break them down like that.
Yeah. Now, attorney's fees in a contempt.
Yeah.
Do you typically get attorney's fees?
Depends.
Yeah, it depends.
On what?
What statute are you traveling under?
Well, and also what's the level of contempt, and how many other issues are you talking about? Is this one of those here? Like I have
kind of goes to the willfulness of
yes. For sure. Yeah.
Look, like what we were talking about earlier, case where the opposing party owes about $50,000 at this point in back child support.
Oh boy,
that's not good.
And he has made absolutely zero effort. We got a compliance hearing coming up that I have a feeling he's going to...
Does he have the ability?
End up in the booty house?
Well, he keeps putting things on his social media as to him traveling and things like that.
Oh, he's hired a new lawyer, didn't he?
He's got a bunch of new tattoos.
And tattoos are not cheap.
No.
So.
And he has, hired a very expensive lawyer who actually then withdrew. But
have you guys ever defended a contempt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and what are some of the defenses to contempt?
Well, let me tell you about the very, very, very first contempt I defended, and I mean no disrespect to my former mentor, who's now passed on, but she didn't really prepare me for contempt. She liked to focus just on divorces, and usually pretty affluent ones. So when she left, I was kind of on my own in several aspects of family law, which I had to learn from scratch on the fly, and one of them was contempt. And I represented an Indian fellow who wasn't paying his child support at all, or enough to his ex-wife, and I don't think he was able to pay it fully, but I wasn't savvy enough or strong enough to defend that. Mm-hmm. This has been a long time ago. Looking back, what I should have done is laid out the case and said, Judge, he has made payments. He doesn't have the ability to make the full payments.
Right.
He's in contempt, because contempt's rather cut and dried. The order says you got to do X, Y, and Z. If you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're violating the order. But the defense is it's not intentional. It's not willful. I'm not complying fully because I can't. Mm-hmm. And I think in that particular case, I could have done a better job. defending it from that angle. I would have today.
Ability to pay.
An ability to pay. Yeah, I would have today.
Yeah.
And that's usually a pretty good argument on contempt. But you're turning your head like sometimes. Tell me more about that.
It's got to be legit, right?
Right. It's got to be legit. You actually have to have made significant efforts. You have to have basically looked at all of your resources and said, I have expended all my potential resources in order to try to comply with this order. And I just
When it's a money.
exactly when it's money. Right.
Yeah.
When you're talking inability to pay. Right. I've used the defense of unclean hands.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that.
So I have had
And what does that mean?
so essentially, when someone is arguing that you're in contempt of court, they're saying you're violating the court order. If you can flip it around and say you have what's called unclean hands, meaning you're pointing the finger at me, but you need to be looking at yourself too, because you're the reason I can't comply. And also, potentially, you're also not following the order for X, Y, and Z purposes.
No, that's a particularly good defense when you get into that area that I call nebulous defenses. Because correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, because you're much smarter than I am. But if my client's not paying your client child support, you can't come back and say unclean hands because you're not letting him have the child on Wednesday evenings. The unclean hands has to be directly relatable to the contempt that you're alleging.
Well, and look, I had one not that long ago that still kind of cleaning up some with it, that husband claimed that wife, who we represented, was in violation of the court order because she hadn't refinanced the house, but he refused to sign quitclaim deed or any of the documents for her to be able to refinance.
Right, exactly.
And so it's, well, no, jackass.
Yeah.
You did what you were supposed to do.
You can't hold her in contempt when we have all these communications where she said, hey, here's all of this. I need you to sign here, 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 and here so we can get this thing refinanced. And he refused to do that and instead thought that he was being clever.
Yeah, I actually had a case where I represented the ex-wife, and the divorce decree said that they were going to sell the marital residence and they were going to split the proceeds. And the decree even said that, splitting the proceeds 50-50, they each should get $41,000. Well, husband did not disclose that he had a second mortgage on the house. So when they sold the house, they both got like, $8,000.
Oh, shit.
And so then the ex-husband comes after the ex-wife and says, you owe me all this money. And actually, to be fair, it was his new wife, pushing the envelope.
Well,
and so we went to court and laid it all out that the reason neither one of them got what they were supposed to get because he didn't disclose it. And I actually got fees as a defendant against the other side on the contempt. Because,
nice.
Nice. He would call bullshit contempt.
Yeah.
Well, bullshit contempts are not all that common. Usually a good attorney is going to say, let's not do that. Yeah, I'm not filing it. I'm not going to defend that.
My name on that.
Nebulous contempts are fairly common, and it's a really sad, messy thing to see an attorney try to prove them when they just can't prove it up.
Yeah.
And it frustrates judges. And I tell my clients all the time, I'm not really gung-ho on, a single act of nebulous contempt. And I tell them all the time, you need to keep a journal. In fact, this is really good advice generally. The divorce is over. Now you've got this order that you're going to live by. Go buy yourself a journal and like a diary, Jim. And keep notes. And in that journal goes emails, text messages, photos, and you start building a file because they will just swear to you, my ex-wife is not going to follow this order. I'm like, great. If you are divorced in May and you want to come back in July and go, let's go with a contempt, I'm like, no, that's telling me you're an asshole.
Right.
You're going to build a file for a year
at least,
more,
yeah.
And you're going to bring me, a folder full of many examples, and you're going to call me throughout, and I'm going to say, no, I need better evidence than that.
Yeah, I mean, if your ex is late 30 minutes one time to drop off the kids.
Shut up.
Right.
Just shut up.
Right. Yeah. Run to the
shut up.
Because that's
you
a
live
great
in Atlanta. Shut up.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's a great example of the unclean hands because you're going to be in court. She was late 30 minutes, and the other attorney's going to get up and go, "Well, weren't you late an hour the other day?" And that's a bad day for you as the attorney. Like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
Because you're stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just not a good one.
Now I will tell you, and when it adds up, with your point, where it's multiple times.
Right.
Yeah, I
had a case where dad was doing things like interfere with mom's final decision-making authority on medical. Dad wanted to take the child to a psychologist. Mom said no, because we've got this other psychologist. Dad then says, takes the kid out of school.
Screw it, I'm doing this
and
anyway.
does it anyway. Mom finds out because the kid misses a day of school. It's like, wait, what?
Where'd you go?
And then, there were 2 children, and dad comes by the house and takes the older child, and the 2 children are home alone. The youngest child's not old enough to be home by themselves, and dad takes the oldest child.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And mom, comes home and is like, what are you doing here? Where is your sibling? So, and this is what's going back to kind of the statute and some of the sanctions that the Superior Court can do. I asked the court to sanction dad $1,000 per incident.
$1,000 per incident.
Be right, because the statute says that to punish by contempt by fines not exceeding $1,000, and the judge did for every incident. And it really came down to, dad got on the stand and was like, "Yeah, I did that. Yeah. Oh, what's the big deal?" And the judge didn't. So the judge really kind of saw, "Wow, this is really willful."
Right.
And I think it was more to say, "Okay, let's send a message. You can't do this.
Yeah.
Stop."
Yeah. You clearly don't get it. So we're going to make you get it.
Time will tell.
Right.
If the lesson was learned.
Right. I tell clients to keep a planner, like a calendar, and keep track on dates of when things happen, just because it's easier. And I actually tell them, particularly if it's the non-custodial parents, they're never going to exercise. And it's not a contempt issue, of course, but it helps with a modification. Yeah. You've got a year plus worth of they didn't show up for visits or something.
Yeah. And let's I want to ask you that question because I've been asked this question. If the non-custodial parent doesn't exercise his or her parenting time, can you not file a contempt on that?
I guess technically you can, but I don't think a judge can force a parent to exercise their visitation.
Well, we all know
Sanctions?
Well, you could certainly do sanctions, and you could also seek reimbursement of childcare if you've had to pay for childcare during the time that parent was supposed to have.
Well, and also if they're not exercising any of that time, go file a modification.
Yeah, but that means they have to be substantially not doing any.
Oh, yeah, no, I've had that case.
Well, those are rare.
For sure.
But yeah, what's very common is somebody who says, and it's usually a woman, not always, but usually a woman who says, he's exercising his time haphazardly. And then I drill into it and I need a journal, and it needs to be over a year.
Right. Yeah.
Lay it out for me, because you're right. I don't want to do this. He didn't come one time. Anybody can have a good reason. And I always tell my clients who have primary physical custody, I'm like, you have the benefit of being the primary custodian. You probably get to make most of the major decisions. You receive the child support. You get that bond with the child. You're not the weekend or the holiday parent. But that comes with a burden too. Oh yeah, what's that burden? Well, you're there every day, and you get the good and the bad.
And when they don't exercise time, you got to figure it out.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly where I was going with that. The law in Georgia has a remedy, but it has to be substantially no parenting time is being exercised. But then in the middle ground, can you have somebody held in contempt when they're missing large chunks of parenting time, not enough to modify for more child support because he's not there at all?
Right.
Can you do it? And my answer is, yeah, the law would allow you to do it. The question is, would the judge do it? I mean, what's the judge going to do? The judge is going to hear the evidence. The judge is going to go, sir, you're in contempt. Now you're going to pay attorney's fees for them coming in here for me to tell you you're in contempt. That's not a good attorney's fee case.
Sanctions under the statute.
You can do it, but I
just don't know if a judge would do it.
Right. Yeah.
Years ago, I heard Randy Kessler. Randy Kessler's a longtime attorney here in town. He was giving us a presentation at a CLE specifically about getting attorney's fees. And I thought his points were so good, I wrote them down and typed them up and
put them in your diary.
Put them. Yeah, very funny. Put them on my desk.
It was pre-diary.
But he basically said in so many words, he says, build the case where the judge won't like the other client. If the judge doesn't like that guy, the judge is going to do so much more for you. Like find a nebulous contempt in contempt, like order fees or sanctions, because even though it was nebulous, and it was nebulous kind of stuff like not exercising parenting time to the letter, but he's a jerk. A good example was nice lady I represented in front of Judge Hamill in Gwinnett County. And I had the actual email where the guy said, I'm not coming to see my 12-year-old boy until we work out all this shit. Until it's all worked out and it's done in court, I'm not coming. I'm not going to come see him. And I handed that email to Judge Hamill, and he read it out loud in court, read it. Then he looked at him, and he's like, really, dude? Really? And got all the attorney's fees I asked for in that case, and a Rolex. So that's a great example of just make the judge not like the other guy. So there you asked me, so there's my answer.
Yeah, and just a side note, the judge did not order
The Rolex.
We have yeah, thank you.
Cherry on top.
All right, well, let's go back to money contempts.
Yeah.
And let me just put it out there. Interest?
Yeah.
Money contempts?
Yeah.
No, I'm not interested in them at all.
Yes. High amount of interest.
My bad.
Okay,
My bad.
well, explain. This
High anus interest.
because there's a difference.
Jimmy's got it here.
There's a difference depending on what we're dealing with, right? Y'all know?
Jimmy's big on the interest stuff. He did my chart for me because I don't know how to work Excel. Oh, it's true. I'm terrible at it. And you never sent me your. You never sent me. No, you never sent me your template. So Jimmy, before you are, you're an ass.
Little jerk.
I do love a spreadsheet.
I know.
I do love a summary.
So, okay, so
Sick
let's say it's alimony. Alimony. Interest? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
I'm pushing for it.
No. How about mandatory?
Right.
Right? Under the statute?
Uh-huh.
It's mandatory under the statute.
Right.
What about child support?
I'm
Yes. Yeah.
It's discretionary.
Yeah. That one's discretionary.
There's a presumption in favor of it, but the court has the discretion to not award interest on past due child support. And there's criteria in the statute.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Well, equitable division, it's a yes.
Yes, because if it's money, it's a money judgment. Under money judgments, interest is mandatory
Right.
under the statute.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
And when it's a large number, it adds a large number to it.
yeah. I mean,
It adds up.
Best advice in a contempt is if you're seeking the contempt, you sit down and figure out what the contempt is, what the remedy is.
Right.
Send over a letter to the other side and says, this is what I think the judge is going to do. Let's get this done. Because judges don't want to hear this crap.
Nope.
Contempt is just a little bit better than a discovery dispute.
And
It's just a lot of bits.
Especially don't want to hear the nebulous contempts.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many clients I've had who are freaking out about, here, they wouldn't let me talk to the child, 3 times over this month.
They said they were busy. Well, were they busy?
First off, they probably
Were they
were.
at soccer practice?
And I
when you
sure would like to bootstrap that in with some hard contempts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've told many, many, many clients is, could you imagine if we file this, the judge is going to look at both sides and be like,
really, guys?
Yeah.
this is what we're here.
Yeah.
Like, I just got done with a murder trial, and I'm having to deal with both of y'all arguing about phone calls.
Right. Now, I will tell you, because I had a recent contempt, and it was denial of visitation. Judges do not like flat-out denials. I mean, I think there was about a whole month where mom denied visitation. About 46 weeks that mom denied any visitation between dad and the child.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting double-edged sword because normally what I've seen is when you're being denied visitation, it's because there's usually a pretty damn good reason.
Right.
Even when I got to look at my client and go, I understand why they did it. And my client's like, but the order says this. I'm like, okay, we file a contempt and then they're going to drag your ass through the mud because you did something really bad.
Yeah.
In this case, mom actually admitted, she's like, 8 days. And
What was the reason?
mom said, well, a couple of days the child was sick. And, my point to the judge was, well, the child can be sick with dad just as well as the child can be sick with mom.
Right.
Children get sick.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I had an ex-wife, well, I do have an ex-wife. If I had a child with my ex-wife and the child was a minor and they said, hey, the child is sick, I'd be like,
You keep them.
cool. Yeah, I look, but that's me. I don't like to be sick,
The other excuse was diaper rash.
Yeah, diaper.
The judge was like,
and I'll bet,
good one.
and I'll bet that the judge said either the diaper rash came from his neglect when the child was with him,
Even his wife said,
or that he's no good at fixing this kind of stuff. It's probably something like that. Here's the thing. I agree. A child could be sick or have diaper rash at either house. The real killer is when you deprive the other parent of the child because of the allegations of inappropriate conduct. You know, he touched the child inappropriately. Now you have just opened up the floodgates, and you have just put your whole life as a parent on the line, because if you can't prove it up, I've seen so many people go down.
Oh, yeah. You better have more than just, well, the 2-year-old said.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's not going to do it.
Because 2-year-olds say a lot, don't they? Yeah.
Right.
So it's dangerous work, but usually when a client runs in and goes, he's in contempt, I'm like, well, let's sit down and think about this very carefully.
Yeah, and the goal always should be to fix the contempt, right?
Right.
To fix it going forward, not to just have him held or her held in contempt, and seek punishment.
Because we've had,
Unless it's ongoing.
Because we've had a bunch of judges in the chair where you're sitting now, and these judges don't want these cases. And when it's a contempt, they just want to fix the problem and have it go away. So if you're any good as a lawyer, go fix it.
Yeah, they want people to behave.
Right.
Just do what I told you to do. Gave you a roadmap. Just go on.
Yeah.
Well, and to that, with judges not wanting to hear a lot of these things, and I've explained that to clients many, many, many times. And what is kind of my standard operating procedure with any contempt is I say, no, we need to send a letter before anything is ever filed. Because one, a judge is going to be like, did you try to work this thing out?
Yep.
And then I can say yes. And then two, if not, there's our first piece of evidence for our attorney's fees argument is, look, Judge, we tried to resolve this issue before anything was ever even filed.
Exactly.
Right.
You've been well trained.
Good job, Jimmy.
Good
job, Jim. You're welcome.
All roads lead to Patty.
Any parting thoughts on contempt?
It was your episode. I'm good with it.
I mean, I find contempts interesting. I like it when they get nuanced. I like interest. I like to ask for
like to win. Yeah, I like to win.
I don't like to defend them, because if you're in contempt, then you need to fix it.
Yep. Quit being an asshole.
It's another thing. People are like, how much is this going to cost? I'm like, it's really not going to look good. You pay me this retainer when you owe this much money.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up, because we would have otherwise missed it. When you get I'll make it a gender, a guy. Guy comes in and goes, yeah, my ex-wife filed a contempt against me, $10,000 I haven't paid in attorney's fees. Okay, in child support. Why haven't you paid it? Well, I lost my job, hit on hard times, I didn't pay it. Okay, first question, did you pay anything? Because you could have scraped up $50, $100, $500 here or there. Did you pay anything? No, I didn't pay nothing. Well, that's automatically bad. How much can you give her now? Well, nothing. Well, how much did you think you were going to pay me?
Right.
Well, I was going to pay you on a credit card. How much? How much do you charge? I was going to charge you $5,000. Well, right off the bat, I'm talking about the attorney. You look like the biggest asshole ever if you walk in and we just had Judge Benton in here. If I walk into Judge Benton's courtroom, I'm like, hey, Judge, I'm representing Mr. Lewis. He's alleged he's in contempt for $10,000 in child support. He has the inability to pay it. Hold on, Mr. Shoemaker. Yes, Judge Benton. How much did he pay you? You don't want to be that guy. That's the worst place you could be. In fact, I have actually represented a few people pro bono, or you can pay me much later on. Yeah. And in one particular case, the guy never paid me anything. He bankrupted out of it, jackass. But the last thing you want to do is take a bunch of money when it's money. That's the issue.
So it's child support.
Yeah.
How about when the opposing party is already sitting in jail and hires a new attorney? Because that happened, and then I got to ask the question of, well, Judge, how much was this attorney paid? Because she's paid nothing into the registry at this point.
Right.
Yeah, and you look bad.
And the answer was $5,000. So,
boy.
Yeah.
Look, I had one.
Not great.
I had one recently that went extremely, extremely well. Like, it was comically.
As well as mine.
I mean, nothing went as well as yours. I mean, I got a directed verdict in mine as well, and contempt was just part of it. But the opposing party in that one, very behind on child support, and I had said, no, you actually...
And fees, right?
Yeah. And he owed attorney's fees to our office from 2 prior cases. So he wasn't really doing very well anyway. But I asked him on cross, I said, no, you hired an attorney during this case. He said, yes. I didn't know how much he paid. I said, how much you pay that attorney? He said, I think last count was $14,000.
Oh my God.
And the judge was just like,
Oh my God.
You're done. It's over. It's over, yeah.
Did he get incarcerated?
No, but he probably will be at our compliance hearing. Because I got a couple compliance hearings coming up that I am excited about.
Well, Haley had to cover a compliance hearing for me last week, and the opposing party didn't show up because he knew he was going to jail. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I mean, if you can't win, don't play.
Don't play.
That's right. If you think you're going to jail, just don't show up.
Because if you
Legal advice.
because leaving first, you're last.
Right.
There it is.
And you don't want to be the last person fed at Rice Street, Fulton County Jail.
Do you want to be the first one?
I don't think you want to be fed there.
Right.
I think you just don't want to be there.
Bottom line, if you have questions about contempt, call us.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to talk to you. Shoemaker and Lewis, right? You want to end it for us? Go ahead.
Yeah, you do it.
Shoemaker and Lewis, Lawyers Without Billboards. We still don't have a billboard.
Whoop.
Whoop. Out.
That's it for this episode of Lawyers Without Billboards. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to follow and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more resources or to get in touch with us, visit shoemakerandlewis.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.